If that isn't worthy of a 5-star, then I need to reevaluate my evaluations. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Read, Share, Repeat, where we discuss books from the perspective of an aspiring fantasy author. Me, Carrie Share. And today I am bringing you my June reading wrap-up. June was another month where I expected to get a shit ton of reading done and ended up with kind of a middling quantity read, but a really good quality read, if you know what I mean. I have had a string of just really good luck or just really good choices in the books that I have been reading, and this month I ended up with 2 more 5-star books. So we are on a roll. Without further ado, let's first get into my stats for the month before we talk about the books that I read. So first up, I finished a total of 7 books to completion, and I did have 1 DNF. Of those 7 books, 4 were physical and 3 were ebooks. And again, of those 7, 3 were library books as well, maintaining that about 50-50 ratio of owned TBR to library reads. The total pages I read came out to 2,580, and the genres broke down to 5 fantasy and 2 which I would qualify as romantasy, but you could make the argument that 1 is actually more fantasy than romance and 1 is more romance than fantasy. So I kind of put them together in the same subgenre. And what I am most excited about is my average star rating, which came out to a whopping 4.2, the highest I think my average has ever been. So getting into the books, I started out the month with a little novella called The City in Glass by Nhi Vo. And this is a fantasy, but it is more literary fantasy. And it follows a demon woman named Vitrine who has kind of ingratiated herself with this city and built it up and made it her own, and one day must watch it fall as angels arrive to raze it to the ground. In her despair, watching her beloved city be destroyed for really no reason, she curses one of the angels and in so doing sort of binds that angel to her so that the angel is no longer welcome back at home, and he tries to reconcile this by helping her build the city back up. And like I said, this is more literary than anything, and it has themes of grief, identity, and moving on with your life in a way that honors the past. I enjoyed this book, but it was a reminder why I'm not such a huge literary fan. I just need more plot in my books than what literary usually has going on for it. So I enjoyed my time with it, but with the understanding that it wasn't really for me, and I ended up giving The City in Glass 3.5 stars. And then after that, I was able to follow up on my promise at the beginning of the month to reread The Tainted Cup and follow it up immediately with A Drop of Corruption, both by Robert Jackson Bennett. These are the first 2 books in his Shadow of the Leviathan series. A Drop of Corruption just recently came out, and The Tainted Cup, I really enjoyed it when I read it last year. In fact, it was probably the one book that I could not stop thinking about. Even though I only gave it a 4.5 star last year, I had the sense going into my reread this year that I would probably bump it up, and that held out to be true. I reread The Tainted Cup, and all of the feelings that kind of lingered after I read it last year solidified that this book is just so wonderful in the uniqueness of it, the plant-based biopunk magic system, the Holmes and Watson style murder mystery, the queer romantic subplot, the kind of Attack on Titan like broader setting with these leviathans that they're all kind of living in fear of. It's just so good. It's just so good. It just really stands out, and Robert Jackson Bennett's writing brings it home in every way. Like I said, I could not stop thinking about it after I read it, and I came to kind of regret not giving it a 5-star at the time, so I bumped it up to a 5-star this time, and I was expecting A Drop of Corruption to also earn a 5-star. So this is, of course, the sequel to The Tainted Cup and follows the same characters in the same world, of course, and I did love it. I will say that, but the nature of the way the story progressed, we ended up just getting a little bit less of the POV character than we got in the first book. And the POV character is one of my like favorite parts. And I would not have said that after I read it the first time. What I kept thinking about was everything else that I just mentioned, all of like the buzzwords and the inputs. But I came to realize that I love the main character Din so much. I am really invested in him. And so in this book, we kind of took a step back from his development, and he became more of a vehicle for the audience than an active participant in the plot. He still was, but less than in the first book. And that kind of held me back from the full 5-star. And it could be that the same thing happens where I think about it and I think about it and I think about it, and then I realize that I'm being a little bit too harsh and I bump it up. But for now, I ended up giving A Drop of Corruption 4.5 stars. After that, I picked up Dragonfruit by Makia Lucier, and this was in search of a sort of nautical summary story as I am preparing to go on this big family cruise later this month. And this definitely delivered on those vibes. This is like a Pacific Islander style. This is like a Pacific Islander inspired world, and follows a young woman who was exiled as a girl for a crime her father committed when he stole a very rare, very precious dragon egg that was meant for the princess, and gave it to his daughter instead. This egg has magical healing properties. Both the princess and his daughter were ill. He took it upon himself to cure his daughter instead. And she has been kind of roaming the islands ever since, making her living in various ways, but what she has become most passionate about are the dragons themselves. And through events, she ends up back at home, where she finds that a lot of the residents and a lot of her old friends are kind of willing to extend her forgiveness because it wasn't really her fault. She was just a little girl. It was her father's crime, but they are still on the hunt for a dragon egg, and one has recently been seen, so she kind of pledges to help her old friends find a dragon egg. It was okay. It was okay. It was a YA, which, I don't get along with great. There were times where I was just like, it was so obvious that plot was being contrived so not everyone would have all the same information, and so obvious like clues as to what was going on were being missed and not being communicated. It was just okay. Like I said, the vibes were immaculate. Definitely had the vibes. It was okay. I was gonna say forgettable, but I haven't really forgotten any of it, so I guess it's not forgettable. It was just fine. So I ended up giving Dragonfruit by Makia Lucier 3 stars. After that, I picked up Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands. This is, of course, the sequel to Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, which I also read last year, and I liked it well enough. I didn't fully come aboard the hype train that everyone else was feeling for this book, mostly because like the main character's love interest was kind of a douche at the beginning of the story, and then he grows on you and gets better later on, but wasn't in love with him at the beginning. But anyway, like the rest of it was really good. I really liked the main character, Emily. I really liked the tone. She's a professor of essentially fairies, and in this world, these are like classic fairies where they are monstrous fae creatures who have no concept of good or evil, and they are sort of just doing whatever is fun. I really enjoyed that world and her approach to studying them. So I had a good time with it. I think I gave the first one 3.5 stars or maybe 4. I don't remember. I went into this expecting more of the same, and I don't know. I liked it a lot more than I liked the first one. A lot more. Maybe it's just because Wendell, the love interest, starts off being a simp, rather than having that like douchey first phase of the first book. That kind of softened him for me. But I also just liked the adventure more. I liked that her niece is coming along for the adventure, and she's kind of like a mini Emily, and how Emily confronts like having a version of herself, and what it's like to live with herself, kind of. I really liked that aspect of it. It was just fun. It was a good time. It was a good time. So while I'm still not totally on the hype train, I ended up liking it. I did. I gave Map of the Otherlands 4.5 stars. After that, I was finally able to finish Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. This is a reread, another reread for me, and I have been laboring over it. I labored over it most of June, it feels like. And really, if you think about it, for months. before that. I originally read Assassin's Apprentice in like 2018 and really, 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 really loved it. Gave it 5 stars, was totally committed. At the time, I wanted to write a book just like it. But that being said, I never picked up the sequel. I just never got to it because that is my reading like red flag. My problematic reader trait is that I read the first book and then I love it, and then I decline to read anymore for whatever reason. I've bought all the other books, and I decided it's been 6 or 7 years. I better reread the first one before I get into the rest of the books. It was a little bit of a struggle, to be honest with you, despite having read it and actually remembering a fair amount of the details. It was a little bit of a struggle. The middle, like from the 50% mark up to like the 75% mark, was a drag. And like, there's a plot reason it's a drag, but it's a drag. Yeah, it didn't hit the same after all these years. The ending, phenomenal. Still great. Dragging myself through that like Act 2, Part 2 was a little bit, kind of took the rose-colored glasses off. So, and I'm sort of able to see now, after years of like fervently believing this is a 5-star book, I can sort of see now why others struggle with it. I still liked it. You know, I think if I were to rate it now, I'd probably give it 4 stars, but I can kind of see what other people say when they think that this book is just boring, because it wasn't that part was boring. It was just mentally like a slog. And like I said, there's a plot reason, the characters going through it mentally. Anyway, so like I said, I declined to re-rate it like I did some of my other rereads this year because I didn't want to bump it down. But like I said, I if I were reading it for the first time this month, I probably would say 4 stars. And then finally, I finished out the month with The Beautiful Ones by Silvia Moreno Garcia. And I have heard a lot of great things about this book. I knew going in that it was very light fantasy and very heavy romance. It was more like a novel of manners with just a little bit of magic thrown in. And honestly, that sounded kind of great. And I read Mexican Gothic by this author at the end of 2023, and I liked it. So I felt confident that the writing style would work for me. And yeah, and I just, I was expecting a Regency style book with a little bit of magic, and that's exactly what I got. And oh my gosh, this book was just so compelling. We're following this young woman named Nina who is entering into society, and she's considered kind of a bumpkin. She's part of a family, a fairly wealthy family, but they're more like new money. Most of the extended family are kind of out in the sticks. She is a little bit awkward, and she is being cared for by her cousin, who is like the master of the family and who has all the wealth, and his wife, who is very much the jewel of the society in the city. Nina ends up meeting a man named Hector, who, as it turns out, was her cousin's wife's former lover and who is still very much in love with her. And Hector sees Nina as a means to an end to get back in contact with Valerie, her cousin's wife. That whole scenario was deliciously, like the melodrama was so good. I actually think I liked the first half of the book better when that was the focus, better than the second half. It was so good. It was just so compelling. And then, of course, that situation falls apart, and Nina is having to deal with the life that comes after that. And it's just so good. It's just so good. I loved it. I loved it so much. I loved it so much I read it in one sitting, basically. I read like one chapter in the morning before work, and then after work I came home and sat in my recliner and read it to completion. I loved it. It was just so compelling. It's the kind of like drama that you would never want to be part of, but you love hearing about. It was just so good. And I was thinking about it afterwards, and I was like, is this something that deserves 5 stars? Because normally you get a feeling, right? Or for me anyway, I don't just hand out 5 stars. I normally get a feeling. And I was thinking about some of the other 5 stars I've given out, like the Tainted Cup, the Bone Ships, Gideon the Ninth. And I was like, does The Beautiful Ones stack up to those books? And I realized that I was the one being pretentious about it, and that I did get the feeling when I was reading it because I sat there and I read it straight through. I literally could not put it down. I had other things I needed to do that day and I didn't. I just sat there and read. And so if that isn't worthy of a 5-star, then I need to reevaluate my evaluations because I loved it so much. And so I gave The Beautiful Ones 5 stars and I don't care who knows it. Like, I don't care that this isn't like highbrow fantasy. It was so good. It was so good. And if you have more romantasy in this vein, rec them to me. I want to hear more about it because that was excellent. Excellent. I don't want no fairy smut. I don't want enemies to lovers. That's what I want. I want more like this. So between you and me, excellent. That was the last book I read in June. I did try to read some more, but it just ended up not working out. The end of the month, as you all know by now, is my busiest time at work, and it tends to really drain me of energy. 7 books completed, but again, all of them, or at least the vast majority of them, were just so wonderful to me. And I'm really hoping that I can continue that trend into July because honestly, it does not feel good to be such a Scrooge all the time about books. In fact, I struggled for a long time with wanting to review books because I had such a hard time finding what I liked. And it felt like every book I picked up was like a 3-star at best. And it just was like, ugh, this isn't for me. And I recognize now that I was probably being a little bit picky, but also I just didn't, I was so, I had been so disconnected from my reading habit for so long that I really truly had lost touch with what I wanted and what I should be reading. And I was just going with the trends, which I know by now are not always for me. And that being said, it doesn't feel nice to come on here and shit on books. So I'm so glad that I'm in this phase right now where I'm picking the right books, but I also do think there's an element of I'm feeling more open to certain books that I may not have been open to before, or that I may have been like, maybe a 3. It's odd that I'm in this phase now when I'm kind of paring back on my reading to make room for more writing, but it's just working. It's working. Maybe that is the key. I just need to step back and put less pressure on myself to read so much and really just focus on reading right for me. There is no right way to read, of course, but specifically seek out books that I think that I would like. So that's kind of my soapbox. And with that, thank you so much for watching. I so appreciate it. If you like my content and want to support the channel, please like and subscribe or consider leaving a comment down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books, and if so, which ones were your favorite. In my next video, I hope to have a reading vlog for you. I have been so bad about reading the last week or two. I've just not had the energy. I truly just have not had the energy. And then I made the mistake of picking up 2 excessively lengthy books in the same week. And then I just crashed out energy level wise. Anyway, I'm trying to finish at least 1 book for the vlog, and I haven't yet, and I've been filming for a week and a half. So I'm hoping by the end of the weekend I'll have finished a book and I can actually post a vlog for you guys. Either way, I hope you look forward to it, and I will see you then. Bye.